Good evening. Good evening. It just feels like evening. Sorry, been a long week already.
Dark in here.
It is dark in here. It is welcome to the lunchtime, noon meeting of the City Council.
Committed City Council.
Committed, those who take our job seriously,
Or ought to be.
showing up today.
If it was a regular city staff meeting, we'd be assigning work to whoever wasn't here.
So I just will say for the public that actually we are missing 4 counselors, 3 of whom are at a National League of Cities conference, and 1 just has a work conflict today. So that is why we have a small group to listen to this wonderful report. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. So today we're going to hear a little bit about Oregon 21, in particular what happens in our community. And I think I've been the exec shepherd on this for a number of years, and we've transitioned that over to Renee as we enter this new world. So I'm going to just let Renee introduce the topic and see where we go.
Awesome. This is really in my wheelhouse. So this is great that Sarah got a new role and I can come talk to you about Oregon 21. So actually, before I introduce Stephanie to this topic, when the conversation about bringing the World Championships to Eugene started percolating in the community, people said, this will change our community forever. And I was like, really? What does that mean, for us? And over the last 4 years, or 5 years, actually, it's been clear that it is changing because it's developing relationships in a different way. It is connecting us to our broader city goals that maybe we wouldn't have thought about connecting to, in particular the economic prosperity goals. If you remember one of our Baker's Dozen, Jennifer, you weren't here when we did the Baker's Dozen, but you've heard about the Baker's Dozen probably a ton. It was one of those things that we called out, not really knowing what Inspire the World really meant or what it could mean. But since that time, we've been really doing the things that we set out to do as a community, which is focus on community building, figuring out how we can showcase Eugene and really inspire the world in a different way. I was thinking last night that was 5 years ago, 4 years ago, we've been doing this work. It's 21 months now. We're now talking about this event and this actual time. In a way, we talk about newborns or something new and exciting. And I was thinking about how each month we're becoming more urgent and we're seeing how things are evolving quickly and really exciting. And when we end up growing up from those months and we're back into the years, we'll have a legacy in our community that's undeniable, really. So with that, Stephanie is an enthusiastic, inspiring presenter, and I'm really excited for her to share kind of where we are today.
Thanks. Another way I've heard it saying, just in terms of the timeline of the event arriving, is 87 Mondays. So just FYI.
And counting.
And counting. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present today, give you an update on the city's role as the host for the World Athletics Championships Oregon 21 event. Today I'm going to share what we know related to Oregon 21, as well as updates on the community activities, which I've been calling Huge 2021, that are in the works that relate to the event and the future of the community. And I hope you'll walk away today feeling inspired by what's to come. Since the last time I was here, a few months back in June, there have been some new updates directly related to Oregon 21. The first is that the Doha World Championships took place September 27th to October 6th of this year. The state sent a small delegation to the event, which included Travel Bureau representatives, Governor's Office staff, the governor, and she actually placed medals on American athletes during the closing ceremonies. Right after Doha, there was an official Oregon 21 kickoff event on October 10th where Oregon welcomed the world. And I'll share more about that in a moment. The IAAF, which is the governing body for the sport, is now going through a rebrand. They actually started the rebrand process in Doha. This is more just an FYI than anything else. And they're now calling the organization World Athletics. So you may see that shift in the language. I think that people will still ultimately call the group IAAF, but they're shifting toward World Athletics, which means that the official name of our event is World Athletics Championships Oregon 21, abbreviated to just Oregon 21. Oregon 21 now has a managing director and an operations director on board. They are building their team locally here in Eugene. And the city is an active member of a statewide Oregon 21 legacy team whose mission is to maximize the transformative opportunity for Oregon presented by hosting Oregon 21. The group's vision is that Oregonians feel excited and positively transformed for the better by having hosted the 2021 championships. And Eugene has taken a leadership role in this group, given that the bulk of the events are happening in our community. Many of the projects that we're working on citywide are being used as examples for ways other communities in Oregon can think about leveraging the event and the transformative nature of it. The others who are participating in that legacy team are City of Springfield, Lane County, University of Oregon, Travel Lane County, Tracktown USA, Travel Oregon, the Governor's Office, the Chambers of Commerce, and various organizations that include youth as part of their core mission. As I mentioned, last month, Oregon welcomed the world to Eugene by hosting an official Oregon 21 kickoff event at University of Oregon. The event welcomed back Team USA track and field athletes just returning from this year's World Championships in Doha. The 8 gold medalists are pictured here with various dignitaries. The team won an astounding 14 gold medals and 29 medals overall. Governor Brown, Mayor Vinis, and U of O President Michael Schill all spoke about the enormous opportunity ahead of us, and we got to hear directly from the athletes about what it means for them to compete at home here in the U.S. in 2021. And I'm going to let the athletes speak for themselves in this video that was created that highlights what this competition means for the athletes and how proud they are to be in Eugene in a couple of years.
There's nothing like the World Championships where all eyes are on track and field, all the athletes are focused. It's something that you dream about, it's something that you work so hard for. When it actually happens, there's no greater feeling.
The moment I got my uniform, I realized that, yeah, I'm part of Team USA. This is real now.
I stood in front of the mirror and it just said USA on it. And at that moment, I was so proud. The most competitive country from a track and field standpoint in the world, and it just garners respect from everybody.
If you make the team, you're competing for a medal. We get medals. That's what we do.
The world champions, Team USA.
Once you're a part of this family, it's something that you'll be a part forever.
To bring it home for my country is everything. Here comes Donovan. Brazier wins gold. That's a new American record.
You know, when I cross that finish line, it's all the anxiousness and all the doubts that just kind of weighs off your shoulder as soon as you cross the line.
Welcome back to the spotlight, Allison Felix. They didn't break that record. They destroyed that record.
A medal is something that no one can take away from you because you know what's come before you, and you just want to make the country proud.
Being a part of Team USA is like having a Superman cape on, knowing that when you step to the line, that there's a level of respect that comes with it.
Wow, it's all happening right now. The two-time world champion, Sam Kendricks of the United States.
These athletes from the States that come from all different walks of life, and I say they're the mercenaries from their places. They're the champions from whatever town they come from.
Christian Coleman is a world champion! No contest. Christian the Conqueror here in Doha tonight.
For the World Championships to be in Eugene, Oregon 2021, it's going to be a blessing. You know, we're finally at home. I can't wait to go to Oregon and win another gold medal.
Hayward Field is amazing, and I think it's the perfect location to welcome the world in. Really showing them that we do love track and field in America.
When I'm on the runway in Oregon, those are some of the loudest claps, cheers that you could ever hear at any track meet. It just feels like something special is going to happen.
Being in the U.S., competing on the soil, having the fans in that stadium going crazy when the U.S. national anthem plays, that's going to be a special moment for every U.S. athlete.
I think the home advantage is you want it more. You want to run well for them, so that's like an extra added motivation.
It is Dalilah Muhammad wins the Nationals. The world record is gone. That's the world record.
Finally having the whole world championship in Oregon, like, ooh, I can't wait to get that home crowd advantage.
We've kind of done this before, but not in our house.
Team USA TF, we're bringing it home.
There's no place like home.
This gold medal is my ticket to Oregon 21. I'm definitely going to be there. Are you?
Oh, by the way, they call it athletics in Europe, but it's really track and field. All right, see y'all.
That's pretty good.
So that video kind of gives me like this visceral, really exciting feeling. And as the inspiring video shows, it truly feels like this is our moment. Eugene is on the world stage. This is our opportunity to showcase the best of both Eugene and Oregon. And we're going to have access to countries that we've never had access to before, which provide incredibly aspirational opportunities for our Eugene residents, the spectators, and anyone who calls Oregon home. I shared the last time I was here that my role has been facilitator, connector, general relationship builder, and over the past year and a half, I've had numerous humbling, meaningful conversations with colleagues, partners from different organizations, community members, and stakeholders. And the three themes that continue to rise to the surface when I talk about the possibilities associated with 2021 are engagement, innovation, and legacy. These three tenets continue to be the principles we need to uphold as leaders in the community when people ask why Oregon 21 matters. The reason is this is not just another track meet. This is the impossible. And this is our moment to show that a mid-sized college town can in fact inspire and lead the world. The ultimate goal coming out of this event that I know we're going to achieve is the legacy of partnerships that are forming. We're building a necessary network to run a world-class event, and it's a huge opportunity and privilege that we get to build this network for something that we're truly proud of and excited about. We'll continue to maintain and grow that network so that we can utilize it moving into other, maybe not as fun, events that necessitate us all coming together for different reasons, such as preparing for natural disasters or any other events where community connectivity and cohesion is necessary to save lives. Knowing that, I've taken this slide that I showed last time of things that are on the docket from my last presentation to focus the last part of this presentation today on the first item, which is scoping a community festival that ties to Oregon 21 and thinking about general community engagement and outreach associated with the event. I'm going to spend some time talking about next steps to hosting a successful community festival. What we've known since we found out that we got the bid for Oregon 21 is that there's no space for a fan festival at Hayward Field. This is something that's different than years past, and the reason for this is multifold, but the reality is that this is a large international event that has a giant media and athlete presence, and we know that there's not enough space next to Hayward to host the free fan festival area that usually draws in the community and serves as the link between the community and the event. So from the beginning, since we found this out, we've been advocating for a community festival on the riverfront that's unaffiliated with the event, but integrated as a seamless experience throughout the community that aligns with Oregon 21's plans, as well as other organizations and businesses' plans in town. The proposed site for the festival is the riverfront redevelopment site. And what better place to celebrate the coming together of a community on our newly developed riverfront in the year that the park opens in 2021. We've been working with someone who we've worked with for years on previous Olympic trials, local organizing committee, who has a lot of experience planning for festivals that has historically activated next to Hayward to scope out what the community festival on the riverfront would look like during the 10 days of Oregon 21. We've determined that it's not only possible to host this at this site, but it's also an amazing opportunity to showcase the Riverfront Park, the redevelopment project, the steam plant, and ultimately the connection to 5th Street and downtown. It's a huge opportunity to celebrate the thing that seems to align everyone in our region, and that is the river. And what we're working toward is a celebration of projects that we've already planned for, and the things we know that bring our community civic pride. We're not doing anything new. Rather, we're building community, and we're building partnerships, and we're building a legacy through a shared vision that focuses on positivity and engagement while considering legacy impacts and the future of Eugene. Community conversations are happening around the experience that we want people to have when they're here during this time. We know we'll be able to draw people in for a fan festival that draws on our track and field past, present, and future. These photos show some of the awesome festival experiences we've had at the Olympic trial events since 2008. And two success metrics for a 2021 community festival are securing the Jumbotron screen to live stream the events happening at Hayward so that people feel connected, part of the excitement, and an athlete area where medalists from the prior day can meet and greet with fans. Right now, we're looking at festivals in all parts of the world as we talk about this creative endeavor. We have the opportunity to make this an incredible experience that highlights worldwide arts and culture, including local music, art, cuisine, and performance from Oregon and the United States and the rest of the world. The next series of photos are meant to invoke inspiration in thinking about the transformative nature of how we think about our place. This is a photo from the Jinju Lantern Festival in South Korea. This festival has important historical significance in South Korea. The highlights of the festival are the floating of lanterns carrying personal wishes of the citizens along the Namgang River, and the parade of lanterns is always created by students. Another that has come up is the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is the world's largest arts festival. In 2018, it spanned 25 days and featured more than 55,000 performances. Over the last 70 years, Edinburgh Fringe has developed into one of the single largest celebrations of arts and culture ever seen, only ever surpassed by the Olympics in terms of global ticketed events. The Gates were an art installation based in Central Park in New York by artists Christo and Jean-Claude for 2 weeks in 2005. The artists installed over 7,000 saffron gates along 23 miles of pathways in the park, which is kind of an interesting way to think about wayfinding people down to the river from Hayward. And then we're looking at large-scale sculpture and art installations. This one pictured here is Michael Benisti's Broken But Still Together, and this was at Burning Man this past year. And finally, this last visual art idea I'll leave you with is a projection mapping onto a building at the festival site, such as the exterior of the steam plant or perhaps a different building. We may have the opportunity to project Oregon or Eugene's history visually onto a building to capture people in the evening when they're around. So we see this event as the keystone around building community relationships. The legacy is long-lasting benefits to the community. Next steps include putting out a request for proposal for an event production company that can manage sponsorships and events associated with the festival. We'll scale the festival based on the number of sponsorships and promote it in conjunction with Oregon 21, most likely paired with a community cultural initiative leading up to the event that has roots in both kindness and creating a sense of belonging, which are two really important topics that many community members are talking about. If we do it right and we end up generating revenue, there's also the possibility we could create enough impact to complete some sort of legacy project or program. We'd like to stress the importance we're placing on business participation and being able to highlight both our region and all of Oregon. Additionally, we understand the need to reach all of the members of the community with this engagement, and we're keeping in mind that neighborhood celebrations will most likely be part of this celebration. For next steps, I'll be reaching out to any of the counselors who are not here to get their input, and I'm happy to continue conversations with any of you regarding these different ideas, thoughts that you have, and also what it means to host something like this in Eugene. So thank you, and I'll take any questions.
That's great. Thank you. Do I have counselors needing to jump in?
Sure.
Jennifer?
I will be happy to jump in. All right. Thank you very much for this presentation. I think it has helped me understand a little bit, appreciate a little bit more some of the responsibility of having it here, thinking about it a little more about bringing it to our country rather than just how it affects maybe our own little area. That was helpful, I think. I like some of your ideas. So it looks like we're looking at a multi-day festival type situation with public art installations. Is that kind of what were those two things?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I have thoughts on that. I'm sure that's not surprising. The public arts, I assume there'll be some kind of committee. Is that going to be the same folks that are doing the murals, or will we create some kind of other group to kind of monitor?
To be determined.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I would just suggest that we include on there someone who has some sort of human rights, maybe art history type background, so they can really think about the difference between public art and private art, and how we make sure that we're on the appropriate public art side of that discussion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of some type of temporary art installation. I think it gives you a little more flexibility in that area, and like you can have something that makes a statement. I think. Sure. Yeah, I like the idea. Let's see, what else did I have thoughts? The Jinju slide, I actually got to be there, and it looks fabulous in this picture. When I was there, it was pouring down rain like no one's business. And all the people there were just certain I was going to die of pneumonia because I had to get so wet to pretend to push a button. So this looks lovely. I wish I was there for this one. But it does make me think, I mean, it's something where, yeah, it's temporary, but it makes a big statement, and it makes you really think about different issues because of the topics that are chosen to make some of the lighted floats. So, yeah, I think you guys are doing a good job. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on mural saturation. Like, have we, how many is too many? Have we determined that? Do we have walls left? Or I mean, is this are we going to keep making more every year until 2020? Is that kind of the
That's
plan?
a really good question. I might defer to Renee.
Yeah, it was 20 by 21, and I think we have 22 within that program. And of course, a number of others through the Urban Canvas program as well. So that program continues with businesses requesting connections with artists and partnerships in that way. I know that they're trying to rethink what the next steps are. I don't know that it'll continue in that same way that it's been, but they're kind of working through that now, what the next iteration is. It's not really sustainable fully, as it is, so it's really the opportune time to kind of shift thinking, and
right.
So,
great.
Yeah.
Okay, Alan.
Yeah, this is great. It's very colorful, very exciting, and a big deal. And most people understand what the Olympic trials and the scale of that, because we've had it so many times here. Can you compare this to that, and so people can get a sense of this? I often say this is like Olympic trials on steroids, but
Yeah, I mean, the biggest, I feel like the best example I can draw from is when we hosted the World Junior Championships in 2014, which invited in a number of countries and a certain number of athletes as participants. This just has more countries and more athletes and more media. It is the largest sporting event in the world in that year. And so just thinking about like the media reach and the broadcasting potential, and I think that that's something that Travel Oregon is thinking really seriously about, is like, how are we marketing us as a state? I think that's the thing that I continue to drill down on those points, because it's really an opportunity to think creatively and differently and try new things, because of the nature of the permission slip almost of the event, which is pretty exciting. So thinking about activating the corridors in town where we want people, how we want people to get around, thinking about how to get people to the riverfront site is something I'm thinking about a lot. And just kind of being really intentional in that movement, and also just what the possibilities are.
yeah. How many people do you expect?
There's an estimate of around a population increase of around 55,000 people for the duration. So we know people are coming in and out. Yeah.
Springfield's going to move into Eugene.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. I think this festival is going to be great. That's a good location, actually, serendipitously, that we have that opportunity to have a big space like that, and getting people from there and back and forth is. But that also brings up how do you how do you do the transportation and the parking and moving people around, and how's that planning going, and what are some of the highlights and stuff we're doing? In my area around the Hayward Field, of course, the big issue is parking, but it's also going to create a lot of transportation issues.
Yeah, I know that the transportation kind of subcommittee for the local organizing committee of the 2020 trials is just kicked off. And so that, I think, is going to provide a really helpful model to how we're thinking about 21. So I don't have a concrete plan to give you, but there's a group of people who are now working on that, and I'm going to rely on them for the 21 event.
Like with the trials, do a lot of shuttles from Autzen and South Eugene High School and other places to bring people there, because you can't, there's no parking. There's not 50,000 parking spots. Great. And what about funding? How much, I keep hearing about that from folks. I know our contribution is mostly in kind, but maybe you can talk dollars and in-kind contributions from us and the state.
Mm-hmm.
And the total cost of the whole event is like a 200 or 100 million, I forget the number.
Yeah, I think it's around 80 million. And the funds for the event, we've not been asked for cash funds. And so the funding is coming from the state, the transient room tax, and also revenue created from ticket sales. And so our contributions will be in kind. The festival will be integrated with the event, so that's also an enormous contribution too, is figuring out how to put that on. And then the festival is, we're really going to rely on a sponsorship model, and so going to figure out what that looks like.
So the risk of ending up being a big giant cost to the city is very low?
I think so, yeah.
And then finally, the last part is about housing, where we're going to put all these people, and we're going to have a conversation in a couple of weeks about short-term rentals, Airbnbs and such. Where are all the, I know the athletes are going to stay on campus, and it's going to be like an Olympic Village for the dorms, but what about everybody else, and how do people connect into that if they want to take advantage of being able to use their homes as places for people to stay? Are there established websites, or is it going to be more organized?
Well, Traveling County is the lodging partner, and we know we've got over 6,000 hotel rooms in the county, and over 4,000 of those are in Eugene and Springfield. A lot of the hotel rooms are going to be booked by the World Athletics staff and family, as well as people affiliated with the teams. Bless you. But it's been interesting because there are these opportunities because of the timing of the event, that in August of that year, there's a lot of student housing complexes are vacant during that time. And so figuring out how to creatively place people in those buildings is something that Traveling County is working really hard on. I do think that depending on what our rules are around short-term rentals, I think a lot of people will utilize Airbnb or VRBO. Mostly we're directing people to third-party sites. Yeah.
There's no Oregon 21 site around housing?
No.
Traveling County. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris.
Thank you. This is really exciting, and I'm glad to see all the progress you're making. And well, this is not a disaster, it is an event. It's a major event. And so the model that suddenly comes to mind when you try to manage an event of this size is really the incident command model. And how closely you can mirror that in terms of being able to handle something of this size. And so I'm really pleased to see that you have a managing director and an operations director on board, because the command level requires those people to manage all the other pieces. And you want to make sure you've got sufficient depth within the command structure to make sure that the people who know what they're doing and know how to do it can make sure all the other parts work effectively. And it sounds like you're moving in that direction. You're in the planning phase now, which is the next step, and that's critically important because you've got to plan all these things out and account for unexpected things to the degree you can. And so the planning is extremely important. But then on the operations side, making sure you have sufficient people from the necessary resource bases, whether they're experts in this area or that area, you've got to make sure you have enough people to actually manage the operational side of this, because 50,000 people coming to town is going to require a significant operational staff to be able to manage that. And the two final ones I want to drill in on, Alan kind of alluded to it, is the logistics. Because you've got to have food, transportation, housing. There's a whole host of things you will have to provide or people will not have a good experience here. Because I know when I go to another location for something, I have certain expectations of how smoothly things will go. And the operational side helps that, but the logistics side helps that as well. You want to make sure you have all the transportation you're going to need available. All the food you're going to need is available. All of the other kinds of logistical things have been thought about in advance and brought online. And then the last one, and also Alan alluded to this a little bit, is on the finance and risk side. And you want to make sure you have sufficient resources in place, and it sounds like we're really getting those put together. But the other side of that is the risk side. And the degree to which we have really thought about what are those potential risks, both physical risks and I'll call them human risks that could potentially take place, and how we are prepared to deal with those risks as they occur or if they should occur. I think we'll make sure that we complete that entire picture of being able to manage an event of this scale in a very effective way. It sounds like from the presentation, I'm comforted to know you've really worked a lot of that stuff out. But I just really want to make sure that we are very solid on the logistical side and the risk and finance side.
Thank you. Did you want to comment? So I want to comment. First of all, I love this presentation, and I do love the video. I think that that kickoff event at the U of O, really, it was just so compelling to hear how important this is to the athletes, and I don't think that had really been brought home to me in quite the same way before, that this is really a significant moment for American athletes, and how wonderful it is to be able to be the host and sort of be that barrier breaker, really, for the U.S. hosting this event. I'm with Jennifer. I love the idea of a lantern festival. That Riverside Lantern Festival is great, and I love the Christo. I remember when those were up in New York, and I think that's a really kind of a cool idea and a great model, and more interesting wayfinding than putting in little signs. So that sounds great. I am wondering if you could talk a little bit about outreach to schools and the ways schools might be participating.
Yeah, definitely. That's actually a topic that that 2021 Legacy team is talking about, and it's preliminary right now, but I think that we're going to get to a point of having some type of a curriculum in working together with schools, and we've been talking to the Educational and Service District just about what that could look like to roll out countywide, but I mean, I've thought that an Adopt a Country type of a program would be amazing for youth, and then to actually make that connection with the athletes and their families when they're here would be incredible. So that's sort of my personal on my to-do list. But I really do think that we can make it happen as a collaborative kind of effort. But we've talked about just the cross-cultural aspects of the event, but also the wellness and just healthy living, and that this sport is the most accessible sport to anyone. And so that is a huge part of it as well. So I feel like there could be some really holistic curriculum pieces that teachers use in schools, possibly camps, that get youth really engaged. More to come on that.
And we had talked a little bit about school buses.
Yes, we're still talking about that.
Okay. So could you just explain what that concept was?
Yeah. So I didn't know this, but the Oregon 21 CEO is from England, and when he came here, he said that any international athlete that sees portrayals of the U.S. on TV or in the media, they gravitate toward the yellow school bus. And it's like, oh, I definitely took that for granted. And so his idea was to actually, when people fly into the airport, to maybe transport people using school buses, just as a really fun photo op. We probably won't keep them on there for very long. They're not that comfortable. But I think that could be a really amazing way to engage kids and get people moving around to and from their locations.
And that brings me to another comment, which is, I mean, we did just have a meeting about the Climate Action Plan 2.0. I see that there's another piece here, and I don't know whether you're planning to come back to us on responsible sports and climate, so we'll hear more about that. But I think the school buses are part of it. I think about the MGO now downtown and think about how we have an opportunity this Oregon 21, this event has been kind of driving a timeline on a lot of the work we're doing, and it could also drive a timeline on some of our climate work. And particularly as we think about transit and transportation, it can drive some of that work and give us an opportunity to pilot some things, try out making certain roads more bike and less car, or more walk and less car. So I think as we think about the Climate Action Plan, it would really be good to think about what are some of the more immediate things that we might just roll out. We can show it to the world. We can also, try it ourselves. So pretty interested in just making those connections in this event. Great.
Electric school buses.
Electric school buses, right?
They are here.
Okay, and you'll be back with another update sometime soon. Yeah. Right, okay. Any other thoughts, questions? Thank you very much. It's really exciting, really fun presentation, so thank you so much. And I think with that, we are adjourned.